Welcome to The Breath of God. My name is Jeff Lewis, and I will be your host. And this is a YouTube channel dedicated to teaching the Bible from Genesis to Revelation. We will continue our study in the book of Exodus, which is all about the emancipation from Egypt. Exodus picks up the story from Genesis about 400 years later. The people and the group that went into Egypt were about 70 in number. And over this period of time, they have grown into a nation of at least 1 to 2 million people. Exodus can be broken down into 3 parts. Chapters 1 through 18 are all about the Exodus and 3 personalities: God, Moses, and Pharaoh. The second part, which is all about the law, chapters 19 through 24, covers the 3 aspects of the law: the moral, the social, and the religious. And the third part is all about the tabernacle, chapters 25 through 40. Its design, its delay in construction, and then third, it is built. Each of these 3 parts have several nuggets of gold in them in terms of revelation about God. To understand the book of Exodus, we need to look at the key verses in the book. These verses unlock and help us understand the narrative of the Exodus. So I'm going to read those verses to you. Chapter 19, verses 4 through 6 read, "You yourselves have seen what I did to Egypt and how I carried you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Now, if you obey me fully and keep my covenant, then out of all nations you will be my treasured possession. Although the whole earth is mine, you will be for me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words you are to speak to the Israelites." This is God's redemptive purpose in the Exodus. Number 1, it's to bring his people to himself. Second is to transform them from a slave nation to a holy nation and kingdom of priests. And we see this theme carried throughout the Bible and the book of Exodus. So in the first part, you have 3 personalities: God, Moses, and Pharaoh. God shows up on the scene as I am, the eternal one, the self-existent one, the one who is over all and above all. He approaches Moses in a time of deep brokenness in the Midian wilderness to call him forth to deliver his people. In response to the call, Moses calls God Jehovah Adonai. Jehovah Adonai means the Lord our master, the one who gives us work, who gives us the tasks that he would have us to do. This is my translation of Jehovah Adonai. And you see Moses resist the call of God and struggle to respond. He is a somewhat broken man at this point. He has resigned himself to settling down in mediocrity and obscurity. When he finally responds to the call of God in the manifestation of God in the burning bush. And then we see this transformation that occurs with Moses. He agrees to go in obedience to God's call. And he starts out his journey somewhat fearful when he approaches Pharaoh. And you see this contrast as this confrontation between God Almighty and his representative, as seen in Moses, and the gods, little g, and their representative, Pharaoh, come into this confrontation with one another. And this battle of the wills and might ensues. Over time, you see a change occurs. Moses is fearful. Pharaoh is confident, strong, believing himself to be God on earth and the commander of all the wealth and resources of Egypt and pretty much the world. As the contest ensues, we see the gap between these two shrink, each confrontation. In the final plague, Pharaoh finally relents and lets the people go. And you see throughout this conflict, God makes a distinction between those who are his and those who are not in each of the confrontations and the plagues. The final one, which causes Pharaoh to finally release the people to go into the wilderness to worship, is the plague of the firstborn. So the plague of the firstborn is they had to put lamb's blood on the doorposts and the frames and stay in their homes while the angel of death passed over. And those that did this and were in the homes with the blood of the lamb were protected from the plague, while those who did not experienced the death of their firstborn. And Pharaoh finally releases them. This is a bit of an imagery of Jesus as the Lamb of God. That's one nugget that you find here in the Exodus. We also see something very interesting about deliverance itself. God actually, before he uses Moses, he has to first deliver Moses, deliver him out of the Mildean wilderness, deliver him from his own fear. And you see the deliverance of Moses as he also begins to step in as the deliverer for the nation Israel. And this is a process you see repeated in the Bible. Before God will really use a person, he'll deal with them deeply and profoundly before he really begins to use them as a deliverer. He delivers the deliverer. This is a pattern. And God, though he is almighty and can act apart from us, he chooses to act in concert with our wills. So we see God and Moses work this out to where he is walking in the fullness of obedience and confidence, and God has delivered him from various weaknesses and insecurities, and he comes out a different man. And God will also pave the way for deliverance through that individual to show the way to others, the path of deliverance. So Moses is a bit of a forerunner. He's showing, as he's being delivered, he's also showing the way to complete deliverance. Because as you'll see, God got the people out of Egypt, but it took another 40 years to get Egypt out of them. Those are a few nuggets in that first part of the Exodus. You can take a look at those in your own time, in your own study, and dig into those. It'll truly be a blessing to you. The second is in the law. So the law of God has three main aspects. The moral, as seen in the Ten Commandments, and the laws governing the social life, how they were to treat each other, and then third is around the religious life in terms of the feasts and the Sabbaths. Now, the people had been slaves for about 400 years, and they had developed what might best be described as a mentality of slavery. They worked endlessly. They lived under fear of retribution from their taskmasters. They were unfair in even their treatment of one another. So in order to create a godly society and change them, he had to give them laws and standards in how to live and operate, how to rest and how to work, how to trust, how to be fair in how they treated each other in society, because there are people that had more, people who had less, people who had different positions. How do you interact with each other in a just, in a fair way? And the social norms that God lays out creates the framework for them to operate as a people and a nation. So it's very beautiful. So you learn God is a God of order. He's a God of laws. They were to be a people who were both just and fair, and a people of laws. And this is a beautiful, and there's a lot that can be gleaned from this. We also see the law ends up being a standard for which we can clearly identify sin, because the law gives us a standard, a universal standard, a standard that is consistent over time and irregardless of socioeconomic status. And in that way, God can take into account when people fall short. And you can see the gap between what is expected from a moral standpoint and where people are actually living. And despite the people's best intentions, they fell short of God's standard. And we all actually fall short of God's standard. We can't even meet our own standard. So in that way, God lays out the need for redemption through the blood of the Lamb, like we saw in the Passover, that would come, that would pay the penalty for our sin, where we have fallen short of God's standard. And this is a big deal. And you see this in the Exodus, where people consistently fall short and reach a place of utter rebellion, and God literally deals with it in a very dramatic way. And this is to show that God is holy and we are not, and we need a sacrifice. There's a lot here in the law. I just touched on a few points, but there are several nuggets here. And the moral and the social laws, even the laws regarding religious life, are very powerful, like learning how to rest and not work continuously. God teaches them this, to worship God, to rest, to take a break, how much to work, not to work. It creates a rhythm and a wholeness in life and in relationships. And there's a lot to be gleaned from this that is very healthy and helpful. At the same time, he's taking into account so we can see sin and the grace of God more clearly. And the third part is the tabernacle, which is God's tent. God dwelled in a tent because he wanted to be with his people, meaning his manifest presence with his people during their travels, because they were also residing in tents. Tents were temporary dwellings that they set up and took down as they moved. And God wanted to be with them. It was his manifest presence which made the difference in their lives. And he loved them. He redeemed them to bring them to himself. There's a desire in the heart of God to habitate, not just visit, but live with, reside with his people. And you see the heart of God in this. And this is a foreshadowing of the incarnation, of God becoming a man in the person of Jesus. It's also foreshadows after that, God wanting to come and dwell in our flesh through the Spirit. Again, you see this progression in the heart of God to habitate, to be with his people. It's very beautiful, and there are many nuggets that can be drawn out here. I just touched on a few. And then also, if we look at the additional names of God, or I should say titles, I talked about the I am statement, and then there are a few others. Jehovah Adonai, which is Lord, our Master. We see Moses use this. We also see Jehovah Nissi, the Lord is our banner. After the Israelites came out of Egypt, they ran into the Amalekites who fought against them. And Moses had to have his hands held up by two men while Joshua led the army and fought the Amalekites. And they learned the Lord is our banner. We get a revelation of that there. The Lord who fights for us. Even after our deliverance, because there's more battles after deliverance that have to be fought. And the Lord is there in those battles just as much as he was in the deliverance. We also see Jehovah Rapha. The Lord is our healer. They need water after coming out. And they come across a spring. The water's bitter, undrinkable. And the Lord heals the waters. And he reveals himself as the Lord our healer. I will heal you. I will be your healer. I will take care of your physical body, your well-being in this journey that you are taking with me in the wilderness. The Lord, our healer. And then there's another phrase. It's Jehovah Eloheka. And this is the Lord your God. And you see this, for example, in the giving of the law. It actually begins with, I am the Lord your God. I am Jehovah Eloheka. And forgive me for my pronunciation of that. I speak English, but my Hebrew pronunciation is not so great. And this is a personal revelation of God's relationship with the individual. So Israel had been delivered as a nation. However, they were also individuals within the nation. And God's saying here, I am the Lord your God. Yes, you are a nation, and my covenant is with the nation, but my covenant is also with you. You are also have an accountability and a relationship with me. I am the Lord your God. It's a personal relationship, not just a relationship with a nation. So, especially during periods of great distress and difficulty, the people of Israel, and even today, would draw on the name of God, the Lord your God. And this means I see you. You are mine. I am in covenant with you. And this is also very helpful to draw on this name of God. You're the Lord my God. And we are walking both in community and we are walking as individuals. And this is the revelation of Jehovah Eloheka. We also see the number 40 is used throughout the book of Exodus. We see Moses' life, for example, in the book of Exodus. He has the first 40 years, he gets a prince's education, and he's immersed and pampered and trained to be the next Pharaoh of Egypt. We also see the second 40-year period of Moses' life in the Midian wilderness as he is brought low into a place of humbling and consecration. And then his third 40-year period we see emerge in the deliverance of the people from Egypt. He actually led as the shepherd of the nation. And Moses lived a total of 120 years, so his life can be broken down 40, 40, 40. And 40 is a probationary number where God pressure tests and molds and deals with the deep issues of his servants. One, because he loves them, and then he wants to be able to use them because the place of leadership draws a great deal of attention to an individual, and that can really hurt and even destroy an individual. So God, in the way that he develops his servants, he may spend more time up front preparing them to lead than the period of time they actually, I mean, you look at Jesus, I mean, he walked the earth for 33 years, and the preparation period was 30, and then his ministry was about three and a half years. So this is another pattern, and there's so much gold in the number 40 you see in the Bible, this probationary period, this period of testing and training and consecration. Moses went on in this book, he went up to the mountain twice for 40 days each. The book of Exodus even has 40 chapters. So there's also a lot to glean from the number 40 when you look at the life of Jesus and the life of Moses and the Israelites wandering in the wilderness for 40 years. This was a probationary, a testing, a preparation period for them as a nation and as individuals. So much grace in learning more about the 40-year periods of Moses, Jesus, and the nation Israel. And that is the book of Exodus, the Emancipation from Egypt. I hope you enjoyed this brief lesson. In the next episode, we will get into the book of Leviticus. It is just full of regulations and details galore. So if you love details and you love regulations, which I don't, however, this book is highly, highly valuable. And we learn about the holiness of God in the book of Leviticus, which will be an absolute blessing if you can get a hold of this revelation of the Almighty, the Holy One of Israel. Thank you for joining me on the Breath of God, and have a wonderful day. Thank you.